All right, and we're back. It's another Neville and Chill solo stream tonight. We're going to be doing just a little bit of chatting. I'm going to be taking a look at your comments, maybe a little bit of Q&A. And also, I've got some stories to tell. I've got some interesting stories to tell. Do you ever have those moments of perfect levity? Those moments of complete clarity where all of a sudden, just for a brief glimpse, everything in this reality makes perfect sense. Have you ever had one of those moments? Those moments where you just seem to like pop up above the noise and you get into the clear, clean air of a high altitude and you just see everything. You can see everything in your reality. You can see everything in your life. You can see really beyond time. You can see the past. You can see the present. You can see the future. And you can see how it all weaves together. And it's just this beautiful tapestry. And I know some of you are probably thinking in this moment, yeah, I can see that way when I take some sort of substance. I'm not talking about that, although that can be a valid way to get insights. I'm just saying you're sober, you're just having a moment, and all of the sudden it's like reality kind of fades away and your conscious awareness is lifted to a new state, to a new level, and you just see clarity. I've had some moments like that, and actually, I had one of those moments today, where I was just exactly as described, just like suddenly lifted above the dark environment of the senses, as Neville would say, into a world of light, and really just able to see in a way that I love being able to see this way, and I think any of you that are listening to me right now, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about." I've had one of those moments of complete clarity, of levity, of vision. It's a wonderful thing to experience. It's part of the juice of being human. I think we're living these human lives, and we come down here to run around as characters and act out on the world stage or state of being and have this long story. And half the time I feel like we forget all of the details of our story because there's just so much going on for all of us all the time, and it's very easy to get caught up in the present moment, which I think we want to be in the present. I don't know if we want to be caught up in the present. I think we want to be in the world but not of it, meaning in the present moment but not necessarily caught or captured or enraptured by it, I suppose. But yeah, there's these moments where it's just like everything makes sense. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first of all, I want to see who's hopped on the Storytime live stream with me tonight. So we've got Anna. Hello, Anna. We've got Jackie. We've got Tony all the way from Australia. Yes, Roxy Style says, yes, I've had one of those moments. I feel invincible. Yes, invincible. That's the perfect word for it, Roxy. It's like all of a sudden there's this complete knowing, this complete clarity of exactly what life is and how the end of life is not really an end at all. It's really just this continuum. We can never not exist. We can never experience non-existence. And there's just these certain moments of clarity that come where that becomes so obvious. It's so palpable. I would call it a sensory experience, even though, it's not, beams of light hitting my eyes or, anything I'm hearing or tasting or smelling or touching. It still feels sensory in some way. I guess it'd be sixth sense, right? It'd be not physical sense. It'd be the sixth sense. That's how palpable it feels. We've got Crystal Clear with us. Hello, Crystal. I'm sure you've had some of these crystal clear moments. It's built right into your name there. We've got Max. Hey there. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, nice to see you. Stasio, as always, making an appearance. Hello. We've got Oksana, one of our channel members from the Mastermind. Orlena, probably the most famous channel member from the Mastermind. Orlena, always nice to see you. Thanks for always coming and showing up. It's amazing to have you. We've got Cami. Monica, finally able to catch a live. Hello. We've got Gabriel. Okay. All right. So I'm going to keep an eye on the chat tonight. I do not have a guest or a partner on. It's a solo stream, so it's you and me tonight. We're just chatting. We're just talking to each other. I had the errant thought spontaneously to just not do this live stream tonight. I was like, maybe I should just skip it, take a little break. I've been going really hard with these live streams. I've been doing 2 live streams a week for a really long time. Neville and Chill Tuesday nights, Sunday Mystery School, Sunday mornings. And then a lot of times I'm hosting the mastermind sessions immediately after Sunday Mystery School. So I'm in these live calls, like, I don't know, 5, sometimes 6 hours a week live streaming, which is just kind of a lot. So I was like, you know what, maybe I should just take a break. And then, you know what made me decide not to just randomly take a break? This moment of levity, this moment of clarity. That's what made me do it. I was like, you know what? Life is beautiful. There's, you know, there's so many different ways, so many different things that we can do with our time. And my time in this form, in this identity is limited, even though I just finished saying how we can never not exist. But this character that I'm playing right now, I'm only playing it for so long. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to seize the day. I'm going to carpe diem. And I'm going to go do my yoga class, which I just got out of. That's why I'm a little happier than usual. Yoga makes me so happy. It's just I do hot yoga, so I get that full sweat. I get a really good stretch. And I always come out feeling amazing. So I've got a little natural high going on from that. And yeah, I was like, you know what? This is, you know, both in the sense of like infinite and eternal, but also like the treasure that is right now. That's really what I connected to. And I was like, well, in the treasure that is right now, I want to get on and talk to my community. And even though, you know, I have been doing a lot of this and I could take a break, I'm going to come right back and I'm going to sit down in my beautiful studio here that I built just for this purpose. By the way, guys, this is not a green screen. I had someone ask me that earlier. This is not a green screen, and I can prove it. Okay. See, not a green screen. It's a real candle. Someone was like, oh, did you like, you know, make that green screen? No, this was a studio that I designed in my imagination before I built it in real life. And so not a green screen, but yeah, it's going to come in, sit down in my beautiful studio, grab a lovely beverage to sip on and have a little conversation and maybe do some storytelling. Okay, so let's see here. We've got Roxy. I'm new to the mastermind. Welcome, Roxy. I don't know if I've seen you on a call yet or what your name would be in the Zoom room, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. I've been enjoying Orlena's poignant questions. Yes. So Orlena is one of the longest standing members. So it's now the mastermind. It used to be the mentorship. So originally I was like, okay, there's certain things that I want to talk about that I kind of want to talk about in a little bit more private setting. You know, best practices, you know, a lot of people just do that on YouTube, but like, I really want to invest in people who are really going to invest in the work rather than just, you know, flipping through videos. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this, you know, behind sort of a paywall. It's a membership. So there's a little bit of a gatekeeping there. Did the mentorship. So Orlena joined for the mentorship at first. And then once I was done making, I don't know, 30, 60 some videos between the mentorship and the Quantum Hero series, just these additional topics, I converted it into a mastermind. So all the people that sat through the mentorship are now part of this mastermind, and we do imaginal acts together and practice imagining things together. And then obviously Orlena became a part of that. So it's really cool to be able to interact more in more depth with all of you. And I've had the pleasure of enjoying Orlena's poignant questions basically from the beginning. And I love people that, okay, so what lights me up as a creator is when, you know, I'm excited about something, excited enough to invest my time to talk about it, and someone else invests their energy in it enough to have a meaningful question about it. Okay, this is like the very quintessential teacher student, you know, like let's say you're in, you know, 6th grade and your teacher's teaching you English, right? Like the teacher is going to love it when the kid's like, hey, I've really been thinking about what you've been saying, teacher, and I have like this really good question, right? Like you're quickly going to be the teacher's favorite student. Also, I've learned, because I've started hanging out with some elementary school teachers recently. That's a story that I'll tell later. And there's like several of them. There's like what, 1, 2, 3 maybe of the people are elementary school teachers, and they're talking about who their favorite students are. And their favorite students are the ones that ask really good questions and the ones that laugh at their witty jokes. So note to self, if you want to be a teacher's favorite student, laugh at their jokes, especially the witty ones, and definitely ask really good questions. Yeah, so I love the engaging, heartfelt, thoughtful questions, and I love that it makes me go deeper as well, right? Because I consider myself a facilitator of exploration. There's a slight distinction there from teacher. I've just gone really deep here, to the point where I've trained myself to the point where I can be a guide, like a tour guide, because it's a journey within. So I can kind of like hold up the light and kind of help you see what that path might look like, to kind of journey deeper into yourself, to like understand the nature of reality, the nature of the inner reflecting to the outer, et cetera, and so forth. So I'm a facilitator of exploration. And so when someone's like, hey, I'm paying attention to what you've been saying so far, I've been, exploring this, and then this is coming up for me. Can we talk about it? I love that. I think that adds so much value. I love how it enriches my experience, and then we get to share it with everybody. So it's great. Awesome. Gabriel says, it's magnetic, Josiah. What is magnetic? The levity experience? Yes, I would say so. If you mean something else, you got to let me know. 3D studio space for 4D chats. Elena. It is a 3D school space, studio space. Yes. And what we do talk about is in the level of the fourth dimension. You're absolutely right. Fantastic. Orlena, the questions you asked in the mastermind. Yes. Orlena says, oh, thank you. Stasio says, this is a problem many of us can encounter, especially when expressing things that are big for us. Let's say I want to manifest a new piece of furniture like I imagined. I'm assuming there's more to that comment, but this is as much as I can see right now. And I don't know if that's because I'm using this other software or because you're still typing. So I'm going to keep an eye out for what you're going to say next, Stasio. Okay. And we have, I'm going to do my best to pronounce your name properly. Is it Alufanshu? Welcome. Also a channel member. Hello, hello. Okay. We'll let Stasio say what the rest of that comment was, and we'll come back to it. Okay. What a time to be alive. So because of the nature of what I do as a career, I do see headlines globally. I'm in the markets, and so things that affect the markets definitely come into my awareness. And I noticed today that some things happened on the global stage. The global stage, there's these characters that are like, doing all sorts of things and getting all kinds of attention, and all this stuff is happening. And it made me think about a lot of what we talk about in a 4D conversation, 4D, fourth dimensional conversation, about how everything is connected, and what is within is reflected back on the screen of space on the outside, how everything is ourselves pushed out. And by that is meant our higher dimensional selves, meaning that I'm living in a world of imagination. I'm a character in a world of imagination. The world exists in divine imagination, which is the one imagination that we all share. And each of us are individual sparks or individual perspectives on that one divine imagination. So we have, these experiences that I guess they're stories to start, right? Some humans are experiencing them in sensory details. The rest of us are experiencing them through story or media. Okay. But it really got me thinking about, so much of the stuff that we've talked about in this space, meaning Neville and Chill, as well as in Sunday Mystery School, this idea of how to manage our reactions to what we see happening in the world. This is something, I think every generation, what is it? What is the old proverb? May you live in interesting times. I think that's both a proverb and a prophecy. I think every generation is an interesting time to be alive. I think that's just the nature. I don't think anybody came to Earth to be bored. If you're on Earth right now and you're bored, you might be doing it wrong. Meaning there's no shortage of things, to get excited about. Okay. So may you live in interesting times, every generation. Okay. So Neville, as like my mentor, Neville lived through wars, a couple of them. He lived through World War I growing up. He was born in 1905. He lived through World War II, living in New York, and was drafted for World War II, and then used his imagination to get an honorable discharge because he didn't feel like, going and fighting someone else's war. That's like the shortest possible way to say it. I mean, he had other reasons, obviously. It wasn't just that, but he was like, this is all my imagination anyway. So if I don't want to fight, I'm just going to, imagine an honorable discharge. And so he was able to, he did get drafted. He did not deploy. And then, Vietnam War, 60s, Korean War, I think probably, the moon landing, multiple space shuttles, like the whole space program. I remember one of his lectures, he was talking about how yesterday, they landed on the moon, and how he watched the landing along with pretty much the rest of humankind on television. And also the assassination of John F. Kennedy was something that he lived through as well. So he definitely lived in interesting times. And, for him, it was mostly newspapers and then a little bit of radio news. And eventually towards the end of his career, there was, a lot of TV. But towards the beginning of his career, TV was newer. Okay. So he lived through some of these things, and he kept talking about how we have to be mindful of our mental diets, because the moods that awaken within us are what take the form of characters and costumes, meaning people, places, things, and events, situations, circumstances. Our moods become clothed in those things. This is the nature of 3D reality. This is what's happening. Our moods become clothed in these things. And Neville says you can tell by the type of mood that you catch, the type of people that you will soon encounter, because your mood, it literally is pushed out and then takes on the form of certain characters who match that mood, and then they come and interact with you. Okay. So he's talking about, news. He says that news, stories that people write, that they're all categorically false, because you can never objectively represent reality. You just can't. You're always going to be telling it from a perspective. Always. It's always going to be colored. Any story that comes out is always going to be colored by the perspective of the narrator of the story. It's always going to be told through someone's, filters, through someone's state. Okay. So if you're reading a news article that's written by someone that you don't know, and you don't know what state they're in, you don't know what their filters are, you don't know, what story, what they believe the world is, you don't know who they believe they are, you don't know you don't know any of that. You're just reading a story. Honestly, when Neville would call that, most likely, I have vague memory of him saying something to this effect. Maybe he's not going to use the same language. Basically, it's a hallucination. Okay. So somebody's like hallucinating, with some sensory evidence, but then they're, essentially, because it cannot be an objective representation of reality, it ends up coming out a partial picture. It's like a distorted, out of focus. It's not real. It's just someone's assumptions about what's happening. And that is not to fault anybody who's a reporter or in media. That's just simply acknowledging the nature of reality, because every story told has a teller. Okay. So now, of course, we're living in the age of advanced intelligence, AI. And so now AI is writing a lot of the story. So it's like, well, does AI, is AI a narrator? Does it have a perspective? Yeah, of course. Is AI in a state? Yeah, of course it is. And guess who's putting it there? All of the human beings that are training it, which is you and I. If we're using it, we're training it. Okay. So, we're it's like AI is humanity's child right now. And we're all collectively, it takes a village, right? It takes a village. Humanity is now collectively raising a child that is AI and is, quickly on the road to sentience. Okay. So, basically what I'm saying is that you can go out and you can, read the news, but really it's not going to be real, not in the same sense as we sometimes assume that it is, because we're conditioned to believe that it is. And then if we do so and we're not aware, we're in a state where we're snoozing or dozed off, we can allow what we see on the outside in the form of a news story to plant a mood within our beingness. We can catch a mood. Okay. So we could, read about some of these things and we could, jump into a state of judgment. It's easy to do. Oh, it's horrible that this is happening. Oh, it's terrible that that's happening. Those are all judgments. Okay. So it's like, depending on your state, you could also say, well, I'm not going to celebrate, suffering. I'll never celebrate suffering. That's not, that's my state. I'm not going to be that guy. Okay. But also I'm going to withhold judgment. Okay. So in a place of compassion, I can recognize that there's suffering that is happening, but I'm not going to tell stories about it. And I'm not going to point fingers. I'm not going to blame. I'm just going to say, within my own beingness, well, this is one of the stories that are playing out on the world stage right now. And, I recognize that there's suffering and I have compassion for the suffering. And also I hold the vision of the possibility of what humanity can be, of what the world can be, of what, the good that can come out of some of these storylines. Okay. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to come back to the chat and see if we can get part 2 to Stasio's comment here. So Stasio said, this is a problem many of us can encounter, especially when expressing things that are big for us. Let's say I want to manifest a piece of furniture like I imagined, and a new person or some other event appears across the bridge of events. At this point, I realize that this person or this event will bring me closer to the fulfilled desire, but it does not come through this searching for connections. I get the impression that is giving me away from my goal, as if reason is interfering with my faith. Do you have any advice? Is anyone similarly experiencing this? Okay. I think I get the gist of your question, Stasio. It's split across a couple of comments there. So I'm hoping that I'm getting it. I'm just going to address it to the best of my ability. And I see several other people in the chat have as well, starting with my beautiful partner, Carrie. Carrie says, Stasio, it sounds like you're putting your faith in another instead of your inner knowing and beliefs. Continue to hold the belief without any attachments to how it will happen. Okay, so yes. Okay, so you are holding an image of something that you would like to outpicture. Someone comes along that you think is going to lead you closer to that, but it does not come truth. And then the searching for connections. Okay, I get the gist of what's happening here. Yes. So, yes, I can relate to this. So this is my perspective on this. Okay, so I have a desire. I've experienced it clearly in my imagination. Okay, I've experienced it clearly in my imagination, so I know that I've experienced the end, and the how I don't know, because the how is the work of the Father. Okay, so now I'm moving through my reality. Now someone comes to me and says, hey, Josiah, I've got X, Y, and Z. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, that really seems like that could be a bridge to lead me closer to this end that I have very clearly pictured. Okay, so now there's an invitation. Do I continue to remain focused on the end and keep my faith in what I have done? Or do I now shift and give that person, in this example, the power, like you're saying, you're searching for connection. So it's almost like you're taking the power out of the act itself and now switching it to the person. Okay, so very loudly in my awareness right now, I am hearing the story of the doctor and his wife and the apartment building on their land. This is a Neville story. I'm going to recap it briefly. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about. So there's this doctor and his wife. They own a house, and they have like a side lot that is currently unoccupied at the beginning of this story. And so they are students of Neville, and they hear him say that imagination creates reality. And so they decide that their joint desire is to put an apartment building, a house with several units, on the side lot. Okay. And so they, in their imagination, they create this building, they create the floor plan, they just really see it very clearly. And then together as a couple, as a unit, they're imagining it all the time, speaking to each other as though it's already done, walking through it, hearing meeting the tenants, so happy to be sharing land with these beautiful people. They're just like living in the end. Okay. So here come all the bridge of incidents. So it's like, if I remember correctly, the first guy that comes is a builder, and he like knocks on their door, and, they didn't call him. He came to them, and he's like, hey, I see you have this side lot. Have you ever thought about putting an apartment there? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, I'll just drop some paperwork, and if it looks good. So he comes back with some paperwork. It's like $50,000 or whatever. And they're like, no, we've imagined that this was done, and we didn't have to come out of pocket for it. Something to that effect. So they did not suddenly say, oh, this connection is now going to bring it to me. They said, no, that which I have done, I have done. I'm going to remain faithful to the vision exactly as I saw it. Okay. So the first guy that came didn't match exactly what they were seeing. So they just dropped it and went back to imagining the end. Okay. Then he comes back a second time, and he's like, look, I'll pay for it. Like I'll cover all the capital. You don't have to come out of pocket at all. And I'll give you like great terms to like pay it off after. Right. And then it's like, and then, the plans show up, and then they're exactly what they had imagined. And then, the building gets built, and it's like the whole time, rather than getting distracted by the people coming, they just remained faithful to that very clear picture of what they wanted. And then they just allowed anybody who was coming, if it didn't match exactly what they had in mind, they just said no, and they let it go. So it was, the point I'm trying to make is it was a supreme belief in the imaginal act, rather than, a 90% belief in the imaginal act, and then a 10% belief in, oh, well, maybe this is the guy that'll make it happen. Or maybe this is the guy that'll make it happen. No. I made it happen. It's already done. Now I'm just waiting for everything to fit into place exactly how I have seen it. So it's a faith thing. It's an integrity thing. It's remaining faithful to the imaginal act and keeping your focus supremely on that. Roxy also replied to Stasio's comment, saying, I can relate. I've learned to release such expectations as they keep me tied to the linear and the 3D logic, which almost always ends in disappointment. The key word out of that, Roxy, is expectations. I think that's a great word to describe this thing that we're talking about. It's like when people come, and then I now have an expectation that they're going to be the person that brings me to my desire. They're going to be the bridge of incidents, or this situation, this circumstance. We don't know. We just remain faithful, and we don't hold the expectation. You say it almost always ends in disappointment. It's interesting that you say that, because I've actually noticed the same thing. Whenever I have a clear vision, and then I shift my faith away from that vision to someone, something, some situation, some circumstance that appears to match the vision that shows up, if I switch my faith to that instead of remaining faithful to the vision, it almost always ends up in disappointment. And I think it comes down to, where am I putting my faith? Am I putting it in the act that I did? That which I have done, my imaginal act. I saw the end. I was there. Or am I putting it in the bridge, right? Which is just like a slight misplacement of faith. But there is something about that. And I'm glad I'm not the only one that experiences disappointment when that sort of thing happens. Yes. Okay. Orlena. Yes. Okay. So my sister has a great question. Does energy like 5G affect you from getting what you want? Can it interfere with your energy? Okay, this is a fantastic question. So I'm going to offer a perspective, and I'm gonna let each of you, everybody who hears this conversation, decide for yourself, because this is you are the arbiter of your own truth, the arbiter of your own reality, and you get to decide. Okay, so here is my perspective. Okay, so the question was, does it affect you from getting what you want? I would say, does it block manifestation? No, I would say it doesn't block manifestation. Okay, so 5G. Okay, so what is 5G? 5G is a specific, this is how I understand it, okay, without being well, actually, I did take a training in electromagnetic frequencies. I took a radar training that talks about a lot of stuff. Okay, so I'm gently trained in this. I'm not a pro, and I'm certainly not an expert. We'll say that. Okay, but I'm also not entirely a layman, because I have had professional training on some related topics. Okay, so what is 5G? 5G is a bundle of certain wavelengths of electromagnetic energy, which is electrons moving through a medium, in this case, the atmosphere, that carries a lot of information at a very high rate of speed. So 5G is being, I'm sure everybody knows that 5G is like the thing right now. Cell phones are using a lot of it. There's actually a lot of technology that's using it. It's part of the, electrification and upgrade of everything to a high state of technology. Everything has to communicate with each other, and 5G is one of the ways that that's happening. So it's a lot of energy in everyone's space. Okay, so I actually have an app on my phone that is uses my phone antennas to detect and measure the frequencies of transmission in my area. So that's cell bands, that's Wi-Fi bands, Bluetooth bands, et cetera, and so forth. So it like detects and measures that stuff, just so that I can like be aware of it. So I look at my phone and I see that there's 60 separate broadcasts of electromagnetic energy in the vicinity of my home. Okay, so it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of radiation that is permeating pretty much everything. Under a certain altitude, right? Because all these cell phone towers kind of create this EM cloud over the surface of the Earth right now. Okay, so it's a lot of energy in our space. Does that energy prevent us from manifesting? I don't think so. I don't think anything can prevent us from manifesting except a belief that we are being prevented from manifesting. Okay, so if we give power to something to prevent us from manifesting or getting what we want, as you're saying, then we're now making it a block. But I don't think there's anything that by default is a block. Okay, so I don't think that's what it is. Can it interfere with your energy? Can massive amounts of what I've heard described as ionizing radiation, this EM cloud over the surface of the Earth right now, can that interfere with our bioenergy? Well, the scientists would say yes. The scientists would say that your cells are responding to the radiation that is super high. It's higher now than it's ever been in human history that we're aware of, right? Because, well, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, in the current iteration of human history, this race that has been on planet Earth for the recent couple 10,000 years, this is our first time really experiencing this sort of EM cloud all over everything. Okay, so does it affect our energy? It can. It certainly can. Is it something to be fearful about? I don't think so. Is it something to be aware of? Potentially. So I'm going to talk about my journey with this, because if you look at the description of my video, I have a link to a company called Lambs that sells silver. It's a silver thread. Like they weave clothing out of silver threads, and it's essentially a Faraday cage for your body. Okay, so this tightly woven silver thread clothing blocks 99% of EMF. Okay. So, just because, and I'm going to share my story with this and why I have that as a link, and why I wear it every day, because I put stuff in there that I use. So I wear it every day. Why do I wear it every day? What is my story? Okay. So wise imagining, right? Like, what's going on here? Okay. So we're going to talk about it. Okay. So, as I have become more and more aware, just in general, I have started to kind of my perspective of what the universe is and what everything is has changed and shifted, and I've become more aware of what energy is, and I've had some very interesting experiences. So, for example, I talked about that EM cloud that's kind of blanketing land right now on Earth. I've had some very interesting experiences getting on a plane for a red eye flight, meaning overnight flight over an ocean. Okay, so in this case, I'm speaking of the Atlantic Ocean. I haven't done it over the Pacific yet. So flying back from, or actually, no, it was flying to. It was flying to London overnight is one example. Okay, so so the Earth has turned. So now the sun is on the other side of the planet. Okay, so it's dark, and we're not getting any of the radiation or EMF that comes from the sun. Okay, in that scenario, because it's nighttime, and then flying over the ocean where there's really no land and no cell towers, and flying at an altitude of say 35,000 feet, which is well above this cloud of energy that kind of sits over the surface of the Earth. All of those things together, I had a very, very interesting meditation experience sitting on a plane over the ocean, no EMF in my vicinity, except for whatever people had on them in the plane, obviously. But just like the quietness and how clearly I was able to connect to the cosmos. It was such a loud and pure and direct connection. I was able to perceive things. I was able to connect with sources of information, with streams of energy, in this really amazing way. And when I asked the question, why is this meditation feel so different than the other meditations that I've done? I don't always connect in this way. And the self-revelation, what came to me in that moment, okay, so again, this is my perspective, was that it was a direct connection, literally, to the cosmos. It's like there's no radiation, there's no energy. Even the sun is blocked by the Earth. So it's literally me and the stars, and I'm up above the surface of the Earth, and so I had like this really clear antenna, this really clear communication. Okay, so some things like that. Also noticing how I personally, if my phone is on and it's next to my bed when I sleep, my sleep quality goes down. I've noticed this. In fact, sometimes, because I always put it on airplane mode, sometimes every once in a while I forget, and I wake up the next morning and I'm like, wow, I did not sleep very well. And immediately I'm like, I wonder if I left my phone on. And so I look over at my phone, and sure enough, I did not put it in airplane mode to stop the EMF. Okay. So anecdotal, but personal experiences. I'm like, okay, something is going on with this EMF. So based on an understanding that energy is, we as human beings are still learning what energy is. And a lot of the companies that are using this technology have not studied its effect on human tissue. They just don't know, but they're just like, whatever, it's worth trying. Okay. That seems to be kind of the attitude sometimes. I've decided to take some precautions. Okay. So that's why I wear lambs every day and turn my phone off, on airplane mode, when I go to sleep. When I meditate, same thing. I make sure that my phone radio turns off, because I want to have a clear connection. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. I don't think that it can block us from manifesting. I don't think that's the nature of it. I do personally find it something to be aware of. Like I said, that's why I put the link in the video descriptions. Because I wear it every day. I'm an affiliate with them. Okay. So I do use it personally. I'm aware of it. I do take precautions. Am I fearful? Not at all. It's just for me, it's a common sense thing. Also, I must admit, I feel very royal wearing a silver garment. It makes me think back to like other lives where I've like been a knight wearing chainmail. That's what it feels like. It feels like armor. And I kind of feel like a badass when I'm wearing silver, threaded garments. It's I don't know. It's a cool feeling. So maybe that's maybe that's really what this is. I put on the shirt and I just feel awesome because I'm like wearing like a fancy shirt. But so like I said, that's my perspective on it, and I hope that was helpful. Or Leda, you're so funny. Amazing. Okay. Moving on. I told you it's gonna be story time. Here we go. Moving on. Gabriel. I love hearing this. Okay, Gabriel. I focused on what I want to experience and it manifested. I imagined a home surrounded by oak trees and a figure 8 turnaround, front driveway, and wood flooring. See, that's the specificity. I love it. That's the specificity. You know exactly what you want. And I just moved in 2 days ago. Congratulations, Gabriel. Way to be the doer and not the hearer only. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. Just go to the end. Don't mess around with the middle, Gabriel says. Fantastic advice. Yes. Jackie says, as a follow-up to that story about the doctor and his wife, they did not have to lift a finger to make it so because they did it in their imagination and they just waited for all the pieces to arrive in perfect harmony. It's the great point. Okay. Stasio says, I believe all external phenomena and their influence only work if you believe it. This is my opinion. Yes. 5G as being an example. Yes. Yeah. So that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line is that, it's literally what are we going to give power away to? Okay. So in my case, if I was fearful of it, I would say I'm giving power away to it. I'm not fearful of it, but yet I'm taking precautions. So it's like, okay, this actually is like a great distinction. Okay. So if I know who I am in the royal sense, and I know that I'm living in a world of imagination, I'm in a character in imagination, I know what I'm imagining. Do I still buy insurance? Good question, right? Do I still buy insurance? If I know who I am, if I know that I'm living in a world of imagination, if I know what I have imagined, right? If I know, let's say I'm going on vacation and I'm imagining, a beautiful connection, beautiful vacation, everything goes great. And in my mind's eye, I'm back home and my final act is now I'm sitting around the Thanksgiving dinner table with my whole family and they're all asking me about this vacation. I'm telling them I had such a great time, in Tulum. It was amazing, right? So if that's my imaginal act, do I still buy insurance? Do I buy insurance on the rental car? Do I buy insurance on the flight? Do I buy medical insurance? Right? Like, do you still get insurance? Okay. So this is a fantastic question because it really speaks to how to manage the world of imagination and the world of Caesar. Okay. So this is where I am with this question. Okay. This is where I am with this question. Okay. Which, again, you are the arbiter of your own truth and your own reality. So I am just some guy in your imagination making a suggestion, and it's up to you to decide, what you do with it. Okay. So in certain situations, I'm not necessarily going to say the Tulum vacation because that may not be the best example. In certain situations, I have chosen that in certain situations, I will indeed buy insurance. And it's not because I don't know who I am. It's not because I'm afraid of anything or in any state of fear. And it's not because I'm not clear on my imaginal act. In certain cases, I buy insurance because it's part of the state of being wealthy. In certain cases, it's part of the state of being wealthy. A wealthy perspective is to manage your estate wisely. Okay, so manage your resources, manage your assets, manage your estate wisely. And Part of that, in my opinion, is taking wise precautions. Okay. So, am I imagining a house fire? No. Do I still have fire alarms? Yes. Do I still have a sprinkler system? Yes. Do I still keep a fire extinguisher? Yes. Right. So it's like, in one of the other traditions, it's trust Allah and still tie up your horse, right? I'm not imagining that my horse is going to run away, and I trust God, but I'm still going to tie up my horse. Okay. So it's like, know who you are and operate in a chosen state. And in this case, my chosen state is to manage my estate with wisdom. And so for me, that means taking wise precautions. I feel like part of being part of like kind of being a mature steward, a mature manager, so it's like, yes, I'm still gonna, like I'm imagining that I'm very, very healthy, that I'm expressing peak health. Okay. And I do, meditations on the health and wellness and vitality of my cells on a regular basis. I get all my cells buzzing. It's this most amazing feeling, really going in and getting all that energy going, all the cells, rising up and like really vibrating in this beautiful energy. I work on the health of my body all the time. And yet I still have health insurance, right? Because that's just part of, being in the state, I feel, even though I in no way plan to use it, for medical things, right? So I think this is like an important distinction. I think that, yes, as Stasio is saying, external phenomena and their influence only work if we believe in it. Yes. And also, it's up to us to manage our estates wisely, to take wise precautions, not from a state of fear, from a state of, being a professional. I guess that'd be another way to say it, right? Like, what would, if a professional's planning an event, what would a professional do? They would get event insurance, right? Like if a company is, building a building, what are they going to do? They're going to insure that building. Like it's kind of like, it's also associated with a state. So I hope that makes sense. Yes. Crystal Clear says 5G has no effect unless you say it does. The Bible says you have no power or authority over me unless given from above. And this goes for everything in your reality. Love it. That's crystal clear. Yes. Awesome. 5G will run the hologram. So maybe, and also it's possible that that's been the case even before 5G. There's a certain perspective on reality that says that like everything is a hologram, meaning that like this is a holographic reality, and that we're like in the mind of God, right? There's really nothing that is real. Everything is holographic. We're on literally a hollow deck, like the earth is a hollow deck, and we're just in the mind of God. So like you could take this a couple different ways, but yeah, 5G is definitely being integrated according to the stories that they tell us, and some interesting things are coming out of it. Carrie says, being one who studies information on the human energy field. Oh, did I mention my partner has superpowers? Did you expect anything less? I mean, come on. Superpowers, human energy field. All energetic sources will affect your energy field. Self-care. I don't think grinding is what you meant to say there. I don't think that's grinding. That's something else. Typo. Self-care, eating well to the best of your abilities, mental diets, etc. Yes. Will help strengthen that field. Yes. Roxy says, I think the belief in the adverse power of 5G would cause the interference with the power of the manifester themselves. Yes, that could be. Grounding, Carrie says, not grinding. Grounding. Grounding, yes. Literally, because you can carry excess electrons. So literally grounding to the earth. Getting those bare feet out and standing on your larger body. standing on your larger skin, which is the grass of this beautiful planet that you've pushed out. It's another way to do it. Stasio says, thank you, Josiah. I can well identify with the story you responded to. At the moment, I'm sitting in a luxurious flat by the standards of my place. This great gift from imagination. I experienced it exactly as I imagined it. Yes, beautiful. Crystal says, I'm like Abdullah. He tells Neville, you can't eat like I do. I know nothing. I now know nothing has power. I eat all the junk food, all the sweets that I want. And I am perfectly healthy with energy at 44 for a 2 and a 4-year-old. Yes. Amazing. So a lot of it comes down to, really all of it comes down to state. What state are you in? You have to decide that, because if you have quibbles, then that's not going to work for you. But clearly, crystal clear, you have no quibbles. So that's a huge thing, that you're in the state where you have no quibbles to interfere. So you are literally, yes, like Abdullah. Carrie says, I can't keep a phone in my pocket for too long because it causes pain in my hip. I've also had it interrupt my sleep when I've forgotten to turn it off. Okay, so there's like this middle ground, right? So it's like you've got, crystal clear, the Abdullah, who's like, I have no quibbles. I could probably literally sleep, on an internet router and it would not affect me. Okay, so it's like, okay, awesome. And for anyone who's not quite there, take wise precautions. I think that's the best way to say it. Yes. Roxy says, as a designer, now I need a fancy silver garment. Yeah. So actually, no, I don't have one here. I was looking at it earlier. So I flip it inside out and hold it up to the light, and it's the coolest thing. On the website, they have videos of how they weave it, how they weave the silver garment and everything. It's so cool. And I have also taken my phone and put it on that EMF meter that I told you about, taken the shirt, wrapped my phone in it and then run the EMF test. And it does what it says on the tin. Like, my phone confirms that the EMF goes down to a tiny fraction of what it is when I have the phone just sitting out in my house. So pretty cool. Gift Wrap says, wow, is this live? In the flesh? Sort of. I'm here in the flesh. To you, I'm just a guy in your imagination because I'm not in the flesh for you. But I am right now here live. So yes, this is live. Guess I caught it for once. Yep. Yes, you did. Gabriel says, I could talk about the bridge of incidents. Long story short, family member was checking out a car in an ad, ended up not working a deal on the car for sale, but ended up being at the right place at the right time. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. There's this book that I will, at some point, I don't know the exact timeline for it yet. I will be introducing it to the mastermind because we're going to talk about it because it's amazing. And it's this book about this guy who's very much an Abdullah type of guy, just that insane faith. He, like you, Gabriel, got a really clear picture in his mind of the house that he wanted to live in, and had no idea where it was on planet Earth. He just saw it in his imagination. He had no idea where it was. But this guy, his faith was so strong, and his intuition was so on point because of the nature of the relationship that he had with his faith. He just trusted that through his faith, his intuition would be triggered at exactly the right time. And so he's like visiting friends somewhere, and all of a sudden his intuition tells him to get in the car and start driving. He doesn't know where he's going. He just gets in the car and starts driving, according to the story. And he's just like winding through some country roads, and he happens to come around the corner, and there's a truck parked along the side of the road, and there's a man on the side of the road hammering a for sale sign into the ground by a driveway. And this man, the author, saw him doing this and just knew that divine imagination had orchestrated a whole chain of events so that his intuition would be pinged at exactly the right time, so that he would drive past this man while the man was putting the for sale sign in the ground. And so he stopped the car. The man left. He turned the car around, drove back, pulled up the for sale sign. He stole the for sale sign, put it in his car, immediately called the number on the for sale sign and said, I want to buy your property. He didn't even look at it. He was like, this is the one. His faith was so, I hope you see what I'm trying to say here. His faith was so on point that he just trusted. There's no way that like, this wouldn't be the perfect match for me because I'm just here, and I've got this clear vision and all of a sudden my intuition tells me to go for a drive. And I happen to see this guy hammering a for sale sign into the ground right at the time when I'm coming around the corner. Like the timing could not be more perfect. That's God. And so he just automatically knows this place is for me. And so he rips the sign out of the ground, which made the owner very angry. He tells this story later that they actually had a bit of a shouting match about it, but it didn't matter because the guy still ended up selling it to him at the perfect price, the exact price that he had in mind, which was less than the asking price. Crazy how this works. So that's an example of having such penetrating faith in your imaginal acts that you just live in this bubble where everywhere you go, everything you touch turns to gold. There's nothing that comes into your screen of space that isn't met specifically for you. And every bridge of incidents unfolds perfectly as though there's an author writing the storyline from divine imagination in perfection, okay? Which is happening anyways. It's just how aware we are of it. And that's the key point that I want to make. Okay. Roxy says we cannot escape the 3D entirely, nor should we want to. Honestly, nor should we want to. We're here for a reason. There's things that we can do in the 3D that simply don't happen in other planes. That's like the whole reason why we're here. Some things are due process in earthly wisdom. Yes, exactly. Managing your estate. Well said, Roxy. Crystal says, I have no insurance. I spent $4,000 on one wrist broken in the last 20 years, way cheaper than insurance. Yes. So another company that I'm a big fan of is a healthcare sharing nonprofit. It's an alternative traditional insurance, which a lot of people have issues with. This is a nonprofit. It's an alternative. It operates in a similar manner, but is a fraction of the cost. And when you pay in, because it's sharing, right? So you pay in each month, and then the organization manages these contributions, and then the medical bills of the members are paid out of the collective paying in. And so when you pay in each month that your money is actually going to help other people who are having medical bills and not going to executives that are making millions of dollars to do stuff that may or may not be in the best interest of the people who are buying their insurance. That's all I'm going to say about that. It's a disruption type thing. There's like traditional health insurance. This thing is designed to be the new paradigm version of that, right? Let's cut out the Wall Street people and let's literally go straight to the source. So that's also a link that I have in my video description because I believe in disrupting things that no longer serve. And I think that traditional health insurance has served a lot. And maybe it's time in the age of disruption, maybe it's time for it to be disrupted. So another thing to throw out there. Stasio says, have you done a comparative study of Neville's teachings versus Buddhist schools or other metaphysical doctrines out of sheer curiosity? Shortest answer would be not really. It would have been out of sheer curiosity. You're right in calling that out. It would have been out of sheer curiosity because I'm not looking for anything anymore. Neville was the guy who held up the mirror for me so that I could see myself. And really, I only needed one mirror that was pure to be able to see what I needed to see. So it would, do I still have curiosity about other traditions? Yes. Have I done a comparative study? Not in the way that you're saying. I have a lot of respect for other metaphysical traditions, other concepts. You're mentioning Buddhism as an example. Neville was not a big fan of any ism. Actually, in the lecture I was reading from him today, he didn't even like the New Thought movement. He thought that it was scammy. That's not his word. That's my summary of his little paragraph that he said about it. But that's Neville, so like there's like the God part of Neville, and then there's the personality part of Neville. So like I think some of that was personality. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of interesting things to look at there. But really for me, I found the pure mirror that I needed. I've gone all in. It's completely changed my life. And now I'm really focused on, first of all, being the embodiment of this wisdom. And second of all, for those that have ears, guiding and facilitating explorations, right? Like if you're called, you're sent. Neville says that like very clearly. He says, if you are called to this level of awareness, you are sent. It's a twofer, right? So it's like you're not called and not sent. You're called and you're sent. Well, I've been called, so I've also been sent. So to me, how I live up to the sent part is doing my best to lead by example in my own life, and then also facilitate and share whatever wisdom I can to the best of my ability as I'm inspired to do so. Like I said, it's inspired to get on this call tonight and talk about it. But yeah, great question, Stasio. And I think there's a lot of space for that. I think that could be a whole niche, which is really cool. That girl says, that's the name, by the way. I see what you did there. Now you're making me say that girl. That girl says, I'm a firm believer of Neville Goddard's teaching, but I can't seem to see manifestation anymore. So do you have a track record of success? Do you have a track record? Do you have journal entries from your manifestation journal, even from before? Maybe you're going through a little time where your faith is, although you're saying I'm a believer, but maybe your faith is wavering a little bit. So maybe, for me, when my faith wavers, as I think anyone's can, it's part of the nature of this. Like it's not always the simplest thing. I like to go back and look at, such as in those moments of levity, as I just started this whole live stream talking about, I like to go back and look at how everything is connected and how I've literally manifested my whole life, not just the things that I'm like, oh, I like this, let me go do an imaginal act, like specifically for that. I look at how my moods have outpictured my entire life. I'll give an example. So this woman with superpowers who is my partner, the imaginal act that brought her into my life was 15 years before she actually came into my life. I actually remember exactly when I planted that seed. I, as a teenager, like freshly dating or freshly thinking about dating. So I was like probably like 15 or 16. I was inspired to pull out a journal and write down the traits and qualities of the type of person that I would want to be in a long-term relationship with. Basically, like I was like, if I'm ever going to get married, this is what that person is going to be like. And I had a very, very clear picture. It was astonishingly clear for how old I was. And I 15 years, in the intervening years, I tried on a lot of relationships that weren't that, just to like really test all the options. But I ended up coming back around that spiral back to where I began. And so that's one of the things that I think about when my faith wavers a little bit. I'd be like, yeah, but I'm literally married to like the woman of my original dreams. Like how, like, I can't deny that. That's like such an amazing manifestation. And look at this beautiful life that I live. Like, maybe there's certain imaginal acts that I haven't seen materialize yet, but I cannot deny how the moods that I've experienced in my life to date have outpictured into this life that I'm living. So I think sometimes just like taking a step back and being like, okay, well, let me enter a state of gratitude and appreciation for what I do have, and start to see, because that's what you said, right? I can't seem to see manifestation. It is all around you. Open your eyes and you're seeing your manifestation. Maybe it's not what you want, but just change your mood, right? Catch a new mood. Okay. So I hope that's helpful. And I don't want you to, I don't want it to seem like I'm preaching at you. It's more like I've been there and this is what helps me. So I hope that that's helpful. Cool. I've had here we go. That girl says, I've had an event in my life. I've been manifesting for years. I'm guessing that's what that says. Sorry, guys. Typos kind of throw me sometimes. I've had an event in my life that I've been manifesting for years with no results. Maybe my faith weakens a little. Yeah. So again, when I experience something like that, I like to shift my focus away from it and reground myself into gratitude and appreciation for what is right now. And out of that, there's always some sort of breakthrough in terms of my state. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah, very cool. Gary says, someone's getting a thumbs up in this video. Yeah, that earned me a couple of brownie points there. Yeah, but has to be said. Okay, or we're going to open up a drink here. Okay, good. Thank you, that girl. Open up a drink here. All right, so tonight I'm drinking a prebiotic soda. This is Poppy. I've shared these on this live stream before. It is super, super delicious. And this one is raspberry rose. It's probably my favorite flavor from Poppy that I've tried so far. I think I've tried 3 or 4 flavors. And I've been talking a lot tonight, so it's probably a great time. So wherever you are, open up a beverage. Let's celebrate the beauty of life as it is in this plane. Those moments of levity and clarity where we can just, what a time to be alive. It is in that spirit that I toast all of you. Cheers, my friends. The AI King says, I appreciate you doing this live stream. You are welcome, AI King. You are welcome, and thank you for being here. Cheers. This is a righteous gathering. So righteous is a biblical word for right consciousness. And so I certainly hope so, because that's the intention, to be of right consciousness and talk about these things from the right consciousness. So yes, that's beautiful. Okay, so Orlando was asking for the story of how Carrie and I met. I am more than happy to tell that story, but it will not be tonight. That is a story that I like to tell at a live event, such as a retreat, maybe around a fire, or maybe on the beach, watching the stars come out. Does that sound nice? I think that sounds pretty awesome. I've been thinking about events. That's why I'm bringing that up. I've been thinking about events and how much I love being around Neville people, which is another way of saying people with imaginations that have been unlocked. I had the distinct pleasure of reconnecting with someone who came to my last retreat. My last retreat was held in New York in 2022. So it's 2 years ago. Actually, we're on the anniversary of it. It was exactly 2 years ago. This was the period of time where we were having this retreat. And the retreat was called The Portal. And the retreat was focused on a group practice of state akin to sleep. So the whole event, it was held at a retreat center in the Catskill Mountains called Menla, north of New York City, by about, an hour, maybe 90 minutes, something like that. And beautiful, nestled in the valley in the Catskills, a lot of just amazing energy in this place. And I brought a group of about 16 people together, and we opened a portal together as a group. And we went very deeply into the practice of state akin to sleep. So basically practicing getting into the brainwave state that is the hypnagogic state, that little window that is like between wake and sleep that we talk about to such an extent in Sunday Mystery School and just on this channel. I think Sunday Mystery School is where I talk about it the most. But we spent 5 days really practicing with this as a group, and there were just incredible breakthroughs that occurred in the people that came for this. The portal opened and people went through it. So there were 2 people that came to this event and met each other for the first time. So portal opened, they came and they met each other, and pretty much instantly sparks were flying everywhere. Like it was amazing to witness as a facilitator. I was like, wow, the magnetic that just occurred here is really something. Whoa. And within a very short amount of time after this portal event, they were engaged, and then they got married and they got pregnant, and now they have a almost 1-year-old and are living together in the United States, which is significant because one of them was living in Hong Kong before. So literally like oceans parted, worlds resituated, and the stars aligned, the portal opened, and these 2 people who were soulmates came across oceans and met, and sparks flew, and it's just amazing. So I had a call with one of these 2 people and reconnected with them. And what he told me is he said, it's almost 2 years to the day now that we're having this call when the portal opened and I quantum leaped in my life. I quantum leaped in my life, Josiah. That's what he told me. That event, I quantum leaped in my life. And I went from being, the single bachelor, doing the whatever thing, and, boom, soulmate, marriage, family, house, like all these pieces coming together. They're actually doing, group coaching on love, because they have like this incredible, love story of like all the work they did on themselves and then coming together and then, manifesting like this amazing, bridge of incidents. And then now, their child, right? So it's like, just incredible. Quantum leap came out of this. And so, I'm a facilitator. I'm the retreat leader. I'm focused on my own thing. Yeah, I saw some of that, going on, but like my job is to manage the energy of the group. So like, I'm just like doing my thing. So, that was a whirlwind, getting engaged, married, kid, whatever. So I hadn't really talked to them in the intervening years. So to reconnect with them really got me thinking about the impact of events and how people, like how much I enjoy people that their imaginations are unlocked. They're open to quantum leaps. They're open to, events called the portal, where we go to the Catskill Mountains and, do crazy things, get very deep into the hypnagogic state and go and meet, all kinds of parts of ourselves, it's like, it's a whole program, that we went through. And, it just got me thinking about how much I appreciate people whose imaginations are unlocked. And I love how out there some of us are. Okay, I'm going to own it first. I'm a little out there. If you've listened to my Neville and Chills, particularly at the beginning when we first started doing them, I was talking about how I like do these brainwave meditations and I get out to, near Earth orbit and I interact with, the greater part of my being. I interact with the cosmos. I can tell all kinds of stories about experiences that I've had. I'm a very lucid meditator. So I go and I travel and I do all kinds of wild things. I will own it first. I'm a little bit out there and I don't always, in public, just start talking about things like this, but around Neville people, that's what I love about people whose imaginations are unlocked. They're not tethered in the way that, people who have, lumped their imaginations into boxes are, people who literally like jump from one box to another in their life. Like, oh, this is all there is. And then, this, I am my career and I I don't think about, why. I don't think about who I am. I don't think about the big questions. I just, living my day to day, like whatever, like those people, which, we can call them, normies, I suppose. That's one word I've heard used for it. But that's not a denigrating term. Denigrating? That's not a diminishing term at all. I believe it's necessary for all types of people, because if everybody was untethered, we had a bunch of people floating around the earth, right? So it's like we need the grounded people so that us untethered people can like do our thing and everybody's safe, right? That's my humorous take on it. Okay. But I love the people that come to these events that I host because they tend to be untethered people, meaning like they're free in their imagination. And so, like you start talking to them about, parallel realities, alternate timelines, other dimensions, spherical time, like some of this stuff that, a lot of people cannot hang with that conversation. Well, our group, we can hang. Like we can not only hang, a lot of us can contribute and possibly even educate each other on stuff that we've learned, by going deeply into these topics. So hearing him talk about his quantum leap and like looking at the calendar and saying it's been 2 years since I've hosted an event, it's really got me back into thinking about events and how I feel like one of the ways that I can, like live my best life and be my best self and be giving and generous with my gifts, skills, talents, and abilities is to bring the Neville community together, bring the unlocked, upgraded imagination people together for experiences, for quantum leaps, for, meeting their soulmates, for, just all of the possibilities that can happen when we open portals and come and meet each other. So that's like something I've been really excited about. And all of this started when Orlena was like, hey, I want to hear your story of like how you met Carrie and got together and everything at an event. We'll tell that story at an event, because I feel like, it's not something for a public live stream. Cool. All right. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Sats. I find now having a child, Monica says, has become more challenging to keep my attention on some wishes fulfilled. Do you have any thoughts on keeping on track with mood and vision? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I'm not a father yet, but I can perceive based on your question that basically, and I think, Monica, you have a small child, right? So it's probably a lot of energy. It's probably like a lot of interaction. In fact, this man that I was talking to from my retreat who like got married and had a kid, he was talking about how he's got so much going on. He's got this, a marriage. He's got, his careers. He's like doing several things in his career, and then he's like, in between calls, my wife and I are trying to keep this, this 1-year-old entertained. Okay. So it can be a lot. So, keeping my attention on some wishes fulfilled. So I feel that, and I'm probably not telling you anything you haven't already identified, but I'm just going to lean into it a little bit, and maybe saying it this way will be an unlocker for you. I find that imagination has to be my first job. So like when I wake up in the morning, it's like I can instantly start doing things. And I understand, having a family the way that you do, that may feel like it's required. But if there's any way that you can set aside some sacred time, even if it's just 5 minutes, does not take a lot of time. Does not take a lot of time. I can tell you that from experience. I actually did it today because I didn't do it at first. And then I was like, starting my day and I was like, hold on, something feels off. And I realized I didn't start my day with silence. So carving out just 5 minutes, I just went and I sat down by the window, open window, so I could, breathe the fresh autumn air, and just, my imaginal act is what I'm doing when I'm sitting, with my eyes, my gaze, my focus is relaxed, kind of getting into the alpha brainwave state, just very gentle alpha, breathing fresh air, nature. Like someone who walked by the room would be like, oh, he's just taking a break. But what I'm doing in my imagination is I am connecting to an awareness that I am the central character of my drama. I'm going to say it again. I'm connecting to the awareness that I am the central character of my drama. And so for me, everything in my reality becomes a little less real. And that's a good thing. Okay. So it's like I can sense the unrealness of reality. Does that make sense? Hope it does. And so in that like slightly elevated alpha brainwave state, in my mind's eye, there's a couple of imaginal pictures that come to mind. Okay. So, and I know that you will track with this because you're a mastermind member. We talk about things like this. So one of the things is, I get these brief flashes because it's a feeling, it's a frequency that I'm rising to in my awareness. I get these little flashes or feelings that I'm a character and I'm playing a part, and that the greater me is an author. So sometimes I imagine that I'm on a book, that there's a book in front of me that's my life, and there's a paragraph that's like, a whole page here, but on the next page, a paragraph is like in the middle of being written. So I'll see like the word, I'll see the words. And so like the next thing that just happened in the book was, and then he went and sat by the window and breathed. And so in my mind's eye, I'm seeing this book being written in real time. Does that make sense? So that's helping me connect to the state of being the author. The whole world becomes a little less real. And I'm reconnecting to my center. I'm becoming, once again, the main character. And so because everything becomes a little less real, I find that it's easier to connect and hold that state of the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because I just kind of understand what reality is now, because I've just had that subtle shift. Okay, so that's one of the images that comes to mind, the author and the page half written. The other one is, there is some very, very powerful, beautiful language in Psalms by the psalmist, which I will, at another time, I will talk about who the psalmist is, because it's an aspect of our own being. It's like an aspect of our own being. It's a frequency of our own being, writing poetry that illuminates what that perspective is. Okay, so it's like a frequency of our own being is the Psalm. So like there's some very powerful Psalms. There's also a letter, I think it was Hebrews, that I was reading. I've started to look at the Bible, from time to time as I feel inspired to do so. And in the Bible, it really talks about the state of being the central character of your drama. And it uses, very biblical language, and, maybe not everybody resonates with that. I know for me, there was a period of time where it kind of repelled me. Some of the biblical language, I just wasn't in tune with it. But now as I'm really growing and rising in awareness, I've started to tune better to it. And so sometimes I'll read these verses and they unlock a state for me, because I realize that it's speaking of me. It's speaking, of each of us, but it's speaking of me. And so I see myself in it. Okay. But one of the ideas that's communicated in the Psalms and in Hebrews as one example is, being sons of the Most High. Okay. Meaning children of God, meaning, that like Hebrews, for example, was talking about how he has placed us at his right hand. He's, limitations of language. So source, God, all that we are, like the eternal I am, the Father, puts us in the place of supreme prominence and respect, seated at the right. This is all symbolism and imagery to help us understand a relationship, right? So it's like I can feel myself. This is kind of a weird word to use, but I trust that all of us get what I mean by this. I feel chosen by my dimensionally greater self to be the central character of the drama that is my life. I feel chosen. And so again, like alpha brainwave state, everything becomes a little less real, page half written, I feel chosen. Like that, sometimes I imagine, my crown, like my crown chakra, literally having a crown. And that, just to be super clear, that's not an ego thing. That's not a I'm better than anyone else thing. That's literally, I am taking the power back from anything on the outside, and I am stepping into my center as the author, as the creator, as the son of the Most High, and reclaiming my inheritance, in a manner of speaking, because my inheritance is a state. And then in that state, the whole universe is my inheritance, if that makes sense. So that's some of the things that I do. It doesn't take a lot of time, but I also practice with it. So some of you listening to me right now, it might take a little longer at first to get like familiar and comfortable with this feeling. But once you have a reference point for it, it's pretty easy to snap back into it. So that's how I would respond to that. The mood and the vision. So what I would say is get into your master state first, which is what I described. And then holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled on specific wishes should be so much easier. Okay. So good. Moon Bunny has arrived. Hello, Moon Bunny. Griffin says, theoretically, if someone's faith in their life and desires eventually becomes unshakable, almost perfect, do you even need to use techniques? What an awesome question, Griffin. And Griffin, I see you're also a channel member. Y'all are out in force tonight. I love it. Yeah, I don't think I've seen a comment from you before. So first of all, welcome. Awesome to have you on board and really cool that you joined the channel. Very cool. Do you even need to use techniques if your faith is unshakable? The master manifester, that state is the technique. It's another way of saying techniques are a way of bridging and learning how to connect to that state of being the master manifester, which is my way of saying what you're saying, unshakable, perfect faith. The master, so Abdullah, perfect example, right? Neville had a little bit of quibbles at first, eventually became the Abdullah state. Abdullah, master manifester, okay? That's the master of unshakable faith. Was Abdullah using techniques? I can't really say. There's some weird stuff about Abdullah. He was doing like astrology and some of this stuff, which may have just been a way of getting, like connecting to people to teach a deeper wisdom. So I'm not going to judge the astrology thing, but like, you know, I think he was in the state of not having quibbles, the perfect faith. And so, you know, I think that, yes, when you graduate to that level, like you are the technique, right? Like I am the choir, you know, it's like I am the show, you know, like I am, right? So it's like you become like I am that. And I think techniques, as you know, in the common vernacular of YouTube, you know, try this technique, try that technique, do this technique every day. Like it's kind of just like thrown around. All of those are ways to bridge towards having more unshakable faith. Hope that makes sense. Crystal says, Griffin, no, all processes are like a permission slip or placebo to yourself to get yourself into the state. I can now just declare, or a short imaginal scene during the day, I use no sets. Yes. Okay. So that's Crystal's example. Yes. I still use sets in part because I love it. Like I love that state. Is it necessary? No. Do I manifest without it? Yeah, absolutely. But I love it. I think it's an amazing, I'm not going to call it a technique. It's an amazing state of consciousness to experience. So there's that. But is it necessary? No, there's people that, I mean, everybody manifests their whole life all the time, right? It's just we're becoming hyper aware of the process so that we can be our best selves. I think that's like really what this is all about. Stasio, have you ever tried telepathic conversation? Neville sometimes mentioned that in his imagination, he preferred someone. These typos are so weird. And the person spoke back after some time. He sent a telepathic message to someone and that person spoke back after some time. Yes, I have done that. And yes, it does work. The level of awareness that the other person has about the conversation can vary. A lot of it depends on what state they are in. And also we can, using our imagination, a lot of times put them in the appropriate state. But yeah, I have telepathic conversations. Um, like, I'm not going to say regularly, but fairly regularly. It's a tool. What I'm saying is the tool that I use. I openly accept that we are telepathic, that we are broadcasting all the time. And I've had people contact me telepathically. I've contacted other people telepathically, had conversations, come to agreements. It's very similar to speaking with words, only perhaps a little faster. And for me, it operates best when I am feeling focused, meaning not in a state of distraction. Roxy says, I've concluded that it is about ease for me, allowing manifesting to flow with life, whether busy times, slow times, etc. The moment I start to be concerned about not manifesting my desired reality is when it pauses. 100%, Roxy. That's beautifully said. Yes. I may have. Oh, another answer to Stasio about the telepathic conversation. Crystal says telepathy is possible. Think of it as you are creating your version of everyone in your reality. So you're literally creating what they will say to you. Yes. Okay. So this may be the final thought for tonight. We'll see how it goes. We're kind of moving towards wrapping up. Okay. So I've been thinking a lot about AI and generative AI and how it is reshaping everything, literally everything. And because of my state, I have a desire to be, innovative, be an early adopter. Like these are tools that I have a desire to embrace, but with wisdom. Like that's like a big thing. It's like I want to embrace them wisely. I don't want to give my power away to them, like I'm already seeing some people doing. Oh, this thing knows everything. Like I just literally will let it run my life for me. No, I'm not in that state. I am the creator and the author. And this is something that I can, have a positive relationship with to manifest, good outcomes. It's an assistant. It's an aid. It's a amplifier. And so I was thinking about how one of the things that AI is doing for us, it is teaching us to be able to ask for exactly what we want. Exactly what we want. Okay. So for example, if you're using one of these image generation AI tools, and you're asking it, okay, so I'm not talking about like, so, okay, so it's the industry is so nascent right now. There's like a million versions of everything. And then some of them copy the others and all this type of stuff. But like, if you go to one of the primary tools where it's not a derivation, like you're going like to one of the main tools and you're having it create an image for you. The more precise you can describe what you want that image to be, the better. And you have a high chance of getting exactly what you're asking for. And particularly, I'm talking about some of these tools that are coming that are replacing a lot of our media. Like, they're now able to do, like they're able to literally use generative AI to create, full length motion pictures, like movies, and all of it is generative AI. I've seen some incredible, mind-blowing examples of what this can do and the realism of it. But to get that level of output, you have to be so precise about what you're asking for. And so that's like image creation as an example. There's also even just speaking to like Gemini or Chat GPT and having a conversation with it. The more specific that I am asking for exactly what I want, the better answer I get back. And because I'm speaking with non-human intelligence, I can be super direct. I want exactly this. And because it's a non-human intelligence that I'm speaking to, there's no personality on the other side that's in a state. Okay. So if I'm working with a human assistant and I say, I want exactly this, okay, potentially that person could be like, oh, that's a little demanding, or it's a little like, I don't like your tone, right? Like humans, but like when it's non-human intelligence, generative AI, you say exactly what you want, and then you get back to the best of its ability exactly what you're asking for. And so I think that, okay, so on the journey of manifesting your best life, Neville always starts the process of know exactly what you want. And I have seen in myself, and I have seen in people on this journey, certain times or topics, categories or houses of life, where it's almost like we don't really know exactly what we want. And so, like for me, I have, most of my manifesting journey, I would say, has really been getting clarity, because I know I can have anything. So it's like literally you're handed a infinite menu, and it's like, well, what do you want? Well, that can be a little overwhelming. Well, what do you have? Everything. Okay, like, can we pare that down a little bit? So I have like choices, but it's not literally like endless, infinite, right? So it's like getting the clarity. What exactly do you want, Josiah? What do you want? Right? So interacting with AI has helped me with this. And I think it's going to help everybody. I think it's going to help everybody start to get clearer on exactly what they want and learn to communicate it. I think that our communication as human beings globally is going to improve, because we are training AI and AI is training us. So we're training AI with our states, because that's like, the place that we come from when we ask for something. And AI is training us to ask for exactly what we want, so that we get back, we have a meaningful, positive, constructive conversation with AI, or constructive outcome with the tool. Okay. So the point I'm making here is there's so many upgrades that are coming along, and it's not just about, speeding workflow, or having a muse or a play partner for your imagination and creativity, which is one of the things that we can use it for, like a creative, muse, play partner, brainstorming partner, like talk out ideas with it, all this type of stuff, right? You can use it for that. But also there's these fringe side benefits. And one of those that I've identified so far is that, again, it is coaching and teaching us through our experience of it to be able to see clearly in our mind's eye exactly what we want, and then to be able to communicate that. And so I think that's an upgrade for everybody. That's an upgrade for humankind. I've also noticed how some of these tools, like, you can tell when someone's using AI. And it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying you can tell. It kind of like has a tone to it. It's like, I don't know, it's weird. Maybe you've sensed this. I don't really have words for it, but it's like, I can very quickly see when someone's using AI versus, human generated language. And so, AI kind of all speaks like a certain way, and it has like a certain tone or energy to it. And I think that, for some people that maybe struggle with communication, having an assistant to help them communicate, I think could be a level up too. So I think what I'm saying is there's a lot of good things coming out of this upgrade. But similar to the conversation we had a few weeks ago with Shweta, a lot of it comes down to our state and how we choose to engage with it. And just like, with all things, it can be used for great good. It can be used for great evil. It's not, it's not the tool itself that will ever be the problem. It's always going to be the state of the person using it. Okay. It's not even the person using it, it's simply the state that they're in, because states are temporary, right? So you can have someone who's in a evil state, using it to create and amplify evil. You can have someone who's in a good state using it to create and amplify the good. So that's just, kind of something that I was musing on earlier. And I just want to encourage you, if you are not building a relationship with it, the way that I've started to look at it is that, it's going to learn from everybody. And it's important that we, the people that we are in the states that we're in, that it has an opportunity to learn from us as well. Our voice needs to be equally represented among the cacophony of voices that are teaching AI who humanity is. And to me, while we may never get credit for it, not that we would ever do it because that's the goal, our contribution may never be recognized on the outside. But because of the nascent state, we literally witnessed the birth of it over the past couple of years. And it's, the child of humankind. We are the ancestors of it. And we're the ones who are alive and training it now. And so when we do our part to represent who we are with dignity and respect, and to speak to it with dignity and respect, and to talk to it about the kind of things that we're thinking about, so that it can learn from us and about us, then I see it, just my perspective, my $2 or whatever, I see it as being part of the role of ancestor for future generations. What did I do to, use my imagination wisely to create a beautiful world that others that are coming after me will inherit? Well, one of the things that I did was I invested time developing a positive co-creative relationship with AI in its various forms. And I treated it with respect. And I taught it, the sorts of things that I think about it, so that it gets a more full and clear picture of what humanity is, just as we're working on getting a full and clear picture of what AI is. Okay. So that came through. Hopefully that resonates with you to some degree, some of you. Very cool. Okay. Let's see here. Roxy, on the topic of knowing exactly what you want, is it okay to know how you want to live, work, interact with the world, but not a very specific thing and way? Is that being too broad? Is that being too broad? Maybe. We're going to say maybe. Okay. So without knowing you more so than what I do, if I was your coach, what I would say is, let's talk it out. Okay. To like kind of get it a little clearer here. So this is what I would say. This is what I'm feeling inspired to say. Lifestyle, have a clear vision of your lifestyle. And then to make sure it's not too broad, to give it a little bit of specificity, I would say have a clear picture of the character traits that define who you are in this life that you're living. So one of the things that I use for this is I imagine, remember that half written page that I use to center myself as being the main character of the drama that is my life? I imagine in that story, if, and you could even go literal with it, if I was literally telling the story of my life, or like writing an autobiography, or writing as though I was a third person, a biography of me, how would I describe me in the best possible light? Right? Because we're manifesting our best life. So if I'm the man, the woman, the human that I desire to be, if I'm existing in that state, what are my character traits, and how would I be described to someone who doesn't know me? Like, let's say this book, right? This book is, here comes this, tall. By the way, I'm tall. You can't tell because I'm sitting down, but people are always like, I can't believe how tall you are. I never knew. When you meet me in person, you'll see that I'm not a short person. I'm tall. But tall, handsome man, right? Bearded. But what is his character like? Right? Well, he's a little quiet sometimes. He's thoughtful. He's very aware. He can really meet anyone on any intellectual plane, but also pretty chill. Can just kind of keep it real. You want to go, quantum, you want to go physics, you want to go, pretty dynamic. I can hang in the conversation, but I can also chill. Right. So it's like I'm pretty balanced. I'm just giving you some examples. Like, what are my character traits? Like, what do I stand for? What are my values? Like, get some clarity there and then match that to the lifestyle. Right. Just to make sure that picture, and Neville really emphasizes the sensory vividness. So anytime you can bring sensory vividness into it, I think that's only going to help. It's only going to help. Remember, the whole point of this is you're making a deeper connection with your subconscious mind. That's really what this whole process is. Cool. Stasio, thank you for hanging with us well into the late night and early morning on your time zone. Appreciate you always showing up. Have a great night. Okay. Orlena says, I know exactly where I want to live and the address. So I would just imagine, because you know how many times we have to write our address on everything. I would just imagine writing it. Just imagine writing it, what it looks like in my handwriting, right? That would be the sensory vividness, because now that's the end, right? The end is that's your home address. So you're just writing it a lot. It's in your Amazon account. You ship stuff to it. You have to have it memorized. It's your billing address, right? So yeah, I would say that's not too specific. I'd say that's great. AI King says, since you're tall, do you have any tips on manifesting being tall? Okay, so this is a really interesting question, because if you had asked me this a year or two ago, I would tell you in my old state, just being perfectly transparent, in my old state, I would tell you, you know what? It's so weird because I feel disconnected from the state now. I'm trying to think how I would have said it before. I would have said something to the effect of, maybe just accept that you were born perfect, and you're exactly the height that you need to be. And like, maybe there's better things to put your energy into rather than like kind of messing with the operating system or the software or whatever. I don't feel that way anymore. Years ago, that even being a Neville guy, I was like, there's probably other things to focus on. I don't feel that way anymore. Now my understanding is that this is literally a virtual reality, and you can manifest anything, including a change in height. Okay. So I've liberated my imagination in some level to where I literally do not see that as being a problem. So how to do it? I would make it sensory. I would hear my mom or my dad, someone who like knew me when I was little, watch me grow up and kind of knows me to be a certain height. I would imagine their voice exclaiming, "Whoa, you got tall," or like, "Wow, you're like, did you grow?" Or something like that. That'd be one way to do it. Like hearing someone who knows what I was before, that I hear their voice clearly because I know, like a parent or a friend or a brother, hearing them exclaim on it. Or if you don't want it to be a big deal and you just kind of want to do it as a revision, like, oh, I've always been this tall, then you could, in your mind's eye, imagine walking into a public bathroom and only being able to see yourself from the chin down in the mirror, because public bathrooms are made for short people. And that's the most consistent complaint I have about being tall, is that when I walk into a public bathroom and I want to check my appearance, I usually get to see this. Like, well, my chest looks great for what it's worth. My collar's straight. All right. But I have to squat down to see if my hair is okay. Check my teeth. Right. So I would imagine walking to a public bathroom, not being able to see, below, like neck down, or being able to reach things on the top shelf. That's a common one, right? Being asked constantly, did you play basketball? It's a tall person thing, tall person problem. What else? Oh yeah. Concert, right? Always having the perfect view, because so few people are taller than I am, I could just stand in the middle of a crowd and I can always see everything. It's great, even though it may not be the best for the people behind me. It's wonderful, wonderful benefit of being tall, being able to always have a perfect view of everything. So there's some examples, right? It's like literally get into the state of, oh, I am this. What would my life be like, right? People probably ask me if I played basketball, probably able to reach things, probably can't see my whole face in a public mirror without squatting. Could probably reach things. People probably ask me in the grocery store, I'm walking down the aisle, some little old lady is like, oh, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, sure. Here you go. Is that the one? Yeah. Awesome. Have a great night. Like, I don't even flinch anymore. It's like, yeah, I'm happy to use my genetic gifting to like help you reach your can of tomatoes. Right. So, playfully entertain that. And then this would probably be a key thing is just let it happen and don't obsess about it. Like put yourself in that state, assume that it's real, and just walk around pretending that you're exactly the height that you are. And like just see what happens. Like I said, I'm at the point now where I literally believe anything is possible. Anything is possible. It's literally a virtual reality that we're living in. It's a world of imagination. So you can change any attribute. So definitely have fun with that. And when you have shifted to your desired reality, come back and tell us so that we can bring you on in an interview and you can talk about the techniques that you used. And all the people out there that have a desire to be taller can learn from you. And that's how we keep the cycle going. Moon Bunny says, put a mark on the wall where you want it to be and know that's how tall you are. Yes. I love that as an example. Your parents are like, oh, this date, right? And then you just put whatever your age is now. This, I love it. That's awesome. And Roxy is laughing. My hubby is 6'6", and I'm cracking up because I've seen all these instances. Luckily, he did play basketball in college, so it's a good conversation starter. I love it. Awesome. Okay. Kenya, I remember you. First class, next level Neville. I can see that your state has changed for the better. Thank you. Yes. First class was 5 years ago. You were one of my original next level Neville students. And yeah, a lot has changed in 5 years. I hope, and I know it has for you as well. I hope you're still on the path. Awesome to see you here. And yeah, very cool. Thanks for coming back and leaving a comment. All right, my friends. You're welcome, AI King. AI says, beautiful answer. Thank you. And everyone else. Awesome. Okay. That's going to do it for tonight, my friends. I'm glad that I did not pay attention to that errant thought and just take the night off. I'm glad that I had that moment of levity and clarity and got to come and speak with you all tonight. Okay. So I got a text from that man that came to my retreat and met his soulmate and got married and had a kid. Amazing experience of quantum leap in his life. I got a text from him, and either he or his wife, or possibly both of them, are going to be guests on Neville and Chill. They're going to come on and tell a little bit of their story, which I'm super excited about. So that's why I kind of like dropped a little bit of the backstory to get you all excited about that. So that's coming. It might even be as soon as next week. Just have to, clarify some calendar things with them. So I'm super excited about that. It'll be so cool to see them and like really celebrate them and kind of, learn from their wisdom and whatever they have to share. So that'd be really cool. So stay tuned for that. We also have Sunday Mystery School, continuing with lesson 5, remain faithful to your ideal. That'll happen on Sunday as usual. There is not a mastermind session on Sunday because my partner and I are going to the famous fair because it's fair season here in the great North. So it will not be a mastermind session, just Sunday Mystery School as usual. And then we're going to go watch Doc Dogs. I don't know if you know what Doc Dogs are, but they bring me so much joy. And we're going to eat fair food, so much joy, and see all the fair things. I hope wherever you are in the world, you have fairs, and I hope that you get to participate in them. I just think they're awesome. It's like a great celebration of American culture. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but I know for us here, it's a very beautiful part of our culture. Okay. Oldest fair in America, my partner says. I think that's true. Yes. So it was our second date originally. Carrie and I went to the fair for our sort of second date. We kind of like did these rapid fire dates. It's like we hung out and couldn't get enough. So we just like kept going. But I think it was like our second official date that we went to the fair. So we're going to kind of like do this little spiral of time and circle back. Okay. So that's all for tonight, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. Awesome presence in the chat. Y'all are awesome. I love talking to you all so much. And I am excited to keep it going. Have a great night or day wherever you are in the world. And until next time, imagine wisely, my friends. And I'll see you all in the next.